So again, and I can say this to you with a smile, I am not going to be distracted by small comments, by politics, by petty issues. This is one goal, and it is to save lives. Yeah. That's all that matters.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz of San Juan, Puerto Rico, has been speaking out, begging for help for the residents of her city, who, of course, are American citizens, so that they can rebuild and survive amid shortages of food, water, and fuel. This morning, in response to her pleas for help from the federal government, Donald Trump, President of the United States, attacked her, saying in an early morning tweet storm, the mayor of San Juan, who has been very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by the Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump. He went on, such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job. Joining me now, Melissa Mark Viverito, who is the Speaker of the New York City Council, MSNBC political contributor Jason Johnson, and National Republican consultant Caitlin Dawson. Thank you all for being here. And Councilwoman, I'll start with you. Trump went on almost a dozen tweets this morning attacking not just the mayor, but also the people of Puerto Rico, implying that they're trying to just get the government to do everything, attacking the media. What do you make of this?
I mean, he's just demonstrating how unfit he is to be the commander-in-chief, and obviously how out of touch and unaware he is of who we are as a people and our political context and reality when it comes to our relationship with the United States. The fact is that in being on the island a couple of days after this, you saw the resiliency of people coming together, not waiting for government to do anything for them, clearing paths, trying to provide for each other and supporting each other. If your neighbor had an issue of an elderly person, people were coming together, and that's the spirit of who we are. And also our contributions to this society and to this country, having served in the armed forces, giving our lives, so many contributions that have happened. We are treated as second-class citizens. That is a reality. And there has been so much that we have given, and what we're asking is for equal treatment and to be receiving the level of support and resources that other disasters and response to disasters have merited. So he is unqualified. He is demonstrating, again, that lack of empathy, and his racism is really being exhibited on his sleeve, that somehow those of us on the island of Puerto Rico, those of us on the U.S. Virgin Islands just don't merit equal treatment. That is clearly what he is saying in terms of these tweets. And again, I want to commend the leadership of the San Juan mayor for speaking on behalf of not only her constituents, but for all the island residents who are clamoring for help, who want to receive support, who are literally dying without the lack of proper response. And that has to be called out for what it is.
Yeah, and Jason, this is of a piece with what Donald Trump did last week, right? As the disaster was unfolding in Puerto Rico as well as in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in these U.S. territories, Donald Trump was focused on the NFL and attacking black NFL players, attacking black NBA players, attacking basically black athletes, and trying to twist their protests into attacks on the military. Well, he did that again this morning. He went after and claimed the fake news networks are working overtime in Puerto Rico, doing their best to take the spirit away from our shoulders and first responders. Shame. So once again, he's trying to say anybody who criticizes him is attacking soldiers and first responders. Your take?
Well, Joy, yeah, it's two levels. I mean, number one, this is what white nationalism looks like as policy. We've been talking about this all along. When you have a policy, when you have a belief that only white people are true Americans, Puerto Ricans are Americans, Donald Trump doesn't care about that. Therefore, he is attacking people and distracting from the fact that our response there to fellow American citizens has not been adequate. But here's the other thing, and I think this is really important. In the midst of these conversations, this argument about we should be defending soldiers and anyone who doesn't appreciate the soldiers, whether it's the mayor, whether it's an NFL player. Remember, there was a racist incident at the Air Force Academy earlier this week where the N-word was scrawled on the doors of cadets. Trump hasn't said anything about that. He wants to spend time complaining that the mayor doesn't appreciate soldiers and NFL players don't appreciate soldiers. How about he appreciates American citizens? So this is par for the course, and the fact that he didn't have an adequate budget even in advance of this disaster is going to make the recovery of Puerto Rico and Houston and parts of Florida more difficult down the road.
Yeah, and by the way, just to shout out to the Lieutenant General, maybe his name is Jay Severia, who gave an incredible and impassioned response to what happened at that academy. That was actually quite presidential. You know, Caton, this Donald Trump, this version of him is odious, I think, to a lot of Americans when they see him constantly attacking women, constantly attacking people of color, showing this kind of disdain. I mean, he wasn't even tweeting about Puerto Rico and the tragedy. He now is on a tweet storm against the mayor. But there's a part of his base that actually loves this, clearly. Donald Trump did this after some other members of his fan club started it. And you had a guy who was part of the big Pizzagate conspiracy, Mike Cernovich, big Trump booster, come out and call the mayor of San Juan garbage, call her a murderer, say she failed her people and should be in prison. So is it worth it for Donald Trump to keep stoking this part of his base when he's already got them and not to ever address the rest of the American public?
The word I guess I would use, Joy, is inappropriate at times and maybe sad and disappointing. But with that being said, the president, I guess, has the right to tweet whatever he feels necessary to tweet. I don't understand this. I have been in the middle of these similar tragedies in 1989, a hurricane, 2015 floods. So I know what the pain is on the ground, and I also know what happens with elected officials when these things get convoluted and information and the requests come from everywhere. So I can't explain it. I'm not here to be a defender
but
of...
I mean, no, I'm not asking you to defend Donald Trump, Caton, but I mean, my question is, though, if any other president had a part of their base that was this hateful and that was this reflexively hateful against people of color, can you imagine George W. Bush taking the side of that part of the Republican base? Can you imagine any other Republican president doing that? And why is Donald Trump doing that? I mean, I'm not asking you to sort of speak for him, but is it healthy for a Republican president to always side with the part of his base that has this reflexive animus toward people of color?
I don't think that the president's looking at it as part of his base. I mean, I would take exception to hateful. I mean, I don't want to label a group of people as hateful. They have their opinions.
They called this woman garbage. This woman is being called garbage, a murderer. It's immediate. She's a woman. She's a woman of color. I mean, you don't think it's hateful?
He isn't representing our base. He's representing himself, and I mean, the fact that they picked up on what he said, I mean, we can always find that, and that's unfortunate and wrong also. I mean, I think that what I would wish the politicians would do is focus on the carnage and the pain that's happening. These things are very expensive. People are hurting. They need help. They're dying. We understand that. I mean, we've had 3 big tragedies of natural disasters for American citizens. So let's move Republicans and Democrats off to the side and figure out a way to get help to these people. And I think the president's going to do that. I think they are doing that. These things get in the way of those conversations of how we help these people in Puerto Rico and Houston and Florida.
Carmen, do you agree? Do you think he's going to do that?
Yeah, no, the response is inadequate and inconsistent. All you have to do is look at the last 2 responses and compare what the response has been for Puerto Rico, and it is woefully inadequate. Meanwhile, while Trump is tweeting from the comforts of his golf course and his luxury, you know, she is literally on the ground. I was there with the mayor of San Juan as she literally was going to communities, knocking on doors to check on people and find out what their medical needs were. She is representing what needs, she is doing what she needs to do, and Trump is, misogyny aside, as we know he is a misogynist and racist, you know, this is really something that we have to have leadership within the Republican Party call it for what it is. The response is not adequate. I want to see, as of tomorrow, immediately, an additional 20,000 troops on the ground in order to get these supplies where they need to be, in order to get these hospitals up and running, to make sure that people that have debilitating diseases are getting treated and getting the medicine that they need. There is not enough personnel on the ground to get to the 3.5 million people, to the 100 miles by 35 miles and the mountains of this island. There is not enough personnel on the ground, and that has to be acknowledged. And the first sign of leadership is acknowledging failure, or acknowledging that a mistake was made and that we can do better, and we must do better for the people of Puerto Rico.
And you know, Jason, you know, there's a couple of things to unpack. One, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda has been out there attacking Donald Trump back and making that point that Donald Trump is on the golf course, and he asked the question, did you tweet this one from the first hole, the 18th hole, or the club? Anyway, it's a lie, and called him a liar. But the other piece of it, though, in addition to the fact that celebrities are actually having to step in and do the work that the federal government is supposed to be doing, is this implication that in order to get the help, in order to get what you need for your people, you have to be nice to Donald Trump, right? Because you don't have all the officials in Puerto Rico going out and speaking in the way that the San Juan mayor is. But the question is, if you poke your head up, if you are not nice to him, if you don't praise him, then you reap the whirlwind. What is that implication for governing?
Well, it's horrible because it suggests that everything is based on patronage as opposed to your obligation as the president of the United States. Yes, Pitbull, Daddy Yankee, and Beyonce have been doing more and speaking more, and Lin-Manuel Miranda have done more for Puerto Rico than the president of the United States has done. But the thing is, Joy, it's the same thing that we saw throughout the campaign. It's the same thing we saw with the NFL. Donald Trump believes that black and brown people in this country are beholden to him and must beg him and plead him and be kind to him and feel like they should be thankful to even have the opportunity to be in his presence. And so therefore, the mayor had the audacity to be born both a woman and brown, heaven forbid, and then do her job. And those are things that Donald Trump can't handle. All the hate, all the anger, all the animosity he showed towards Hillary Clinton, he's directing towards this woman. It's not surprising. I think almost any state in the union that actually has a woman governor should probably be worried if they ever have a disaster, because if she says one thing that Donald Trump doesn't like, you probably won't get anything done.
And Kate, and I hate to throw this on you as the one person here to speak for the Republican Party and the conservative movement, but isn't that a bit of a common attitude, this idea that black and brown people need to be grateful, that they need to essentially always be in a pose of gratitude or be attacked? That's sort of a common sort of base attitude, isn't it?
Absolutely not, in my opinion. I mean, I think people in general that watch this and watch all of this want better lives for their children, themselves, a country that's affordable. I think we all sort of want the same things. At times, we just go in different directions. So as for our party, we're the Republican Party is made up of a lot of different people and from different places. So to lump us all into one sum's a pretty tough chore to do. The Democratic Party is the same thing. I would take exception to the fact that you think that the party is profiting off of this or off of these tragedies by doing this. I mean, we have a president, we have midterms coming up in 2018, that's where we're going to find out what has happened at the ballot box. That's where it matters to me. And right now, the jury's out on that because I haven't seen anything from the Democrats but no. I haven't seen any policies that have been forward. So, I mean, I'd say stay tuned because I'm focusing on 2018. That's where we're going to find out where the rhetoric matters. That's where we're going to find out what the American voters really care about.
Well, I will just say that Judge Roy Moore just won that primary in Alabama. I don't know, Caton, you're great, but there's an indication that the party's going in one direction, but we really appreciate you always. Melissa Martin Viverito, Jason Johnson, Caton are sticking around, actually. Thank you very much,
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate you. And if you want to know how you can help those affected by Hurricane Maria, please visit NBCnews.com/Puerto Rico. All right, you can do that, and you can find out how you can help. And up next, Trump versus the NFL. Who's winning that fight?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.